Good morning. This is, I like coming back home. This club to me is like the mother of AGs, I call it. Jan Zuckerman was my mentor, and Nancy Jocelyn was once a member of this club. Of course, she became a pioneer and went on to the Northside Club. But I look around here and the leadership for Rotary, the leadership in the district, the leadership in this community is phenomenal. You are what makes Rotary work, and your history of contributions to the foundation have been phenomenal. You still provide leadership in all sorts of ways. And it great pleasure. I didn't know, when I was on the District Grants Committee, the District Grants Committee is part of the district that has the privilege really of looking at applications from all of the clubs, now 64 in District 7600. We have about $124,000 that we can give out, no more than $5,000 per club. And this year we had 19 applications for that $124,000. But one of my other jobs in the community is I am the current chair of the Tidewater Community College Board, and it had nothing to do with this. But Alicia, I hope I get some credit.
Absolutely.
But the four-way test, when I think of why I'm a Rotarian, the four-way test is sort of what separates us in many ways from some of the other service organizations. And we don't talk about it a lot. We don't talk about what it means in our business community. And I've challenged my club at times, why aren't we talking about it? We don't even, recite the four-way test. But I thought, what a brilliant idea. I mean, the automobile industry has always sort of had a black eye as being an industry that maybe is not as trustworthy as some people would like it to be. And the fact that Tidewater Community College and the Regional Automobile Center is going to step out and be sort of creative in using the four-way test, creating a curriculum that mentions the four-way test, reminding these individuals how important it is to be honest in the workplace. I think it's phenomenal, and I share with Shanna, I hope that part of this curriculum you are able to put on a video, maybe even a YouTube channel, because I think that is really another way to show the world why it's important to be a Rotarian. But I'm here today to present this club a check. It's your money. You raise the money, and the neat thing about the way the Rotary Foundation works, you raise the money, it gets invested. 3 years later, it comes back to the district. And so the idea is that you will be able to use this to make a difference in your community. And my hat's off to you for coming up with a tremendous district grant application that really epitomizes the ideals of what Rotary is all about. And so on behalf of District 7600, we thank you for all your efforts for the Rotary Foundation, and I have a check for $5,000.
Thank you so much.
That check is signed by Bill Pollard. That autograph is probably worth lots of money, so make sure you save the copy.
It's either Bill Pollard or Jackson Pollock. I'm not sure. I think we need to get a photo.
Photographer, I'm not. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, John. I'm going to give it to Alicia.
Thank you.
We'll figure it out.
Alicia's going to put it into the students who are selected, into their account, right, Alicia?
Oh, I just want to say thank you. You couldn't, when I hear the four-way test and think about the principles that go behind that, you couldn't have selected a better person, because I've had the pleasure of working with Benno over the last year, and he is a gentleman of the utmost integrity, and I look forward to seeing what he will instill in his students.
I would add one more thing. Benno and Mary are one of the main reasons that we have a great spot to start our rally on October 25th. You did it last year. Thank you so much. You offered to do it again this year, or at least you agreed to. Some good words and said thank you. I think this keeps us tied into TCC.
Dave, if you got a second, it may be interesting to hear a little bit about the TCC automobile
program, because I have been out there and I think it's truly phenomenal. I don't know what your timing is, but if you got a few seconds, it would be.
I got the nod that our program is flexible today, so
Okay.
Benno, if you want to go ahead and step up to the podium and.
Well, basically, like I said, my name is Benno Rubin. I'm the director of the Regional Automotive Center. We're in Chesapeake, Virginia. Regional Automotive Center, we do training for students come in to become automotive technicians. We also do diesel training as well, marine technicians, and we just started collision repair this year. I'm a product of this program. I came from Westchester Community College in New York. I'm a graduate of a Toyota T10 graduate, which is Toyota's training program. So I became the instructor, and eventually now I'm the director there. But this is a great opportunity for our students to get out into the workforce. When Mary approached me with this idea, she asked, do you have any courses that you discuss ethics? And I told her, I said, well, we have an intro course, which we get them right when they're starting. Not when they're out in industry already, but when they're starting. And we do discuss it through our stories, because we've all heard. I mean, no one has a good story about, you never tell someone, man, I went to this place to get my car fixed and they were terrific. You just don't hear that. What do you tell your neighbors and your friends when someone wrongs you? And you make sure everybody knows, your neighbors, the guy at the checkout at the line, the post, everybody. So I bring this back to my students and I tell them, I said, sometimes they're met with an ethical dilemma. Do I do what I know in my heart is wrong because I want to keep my job, or do I walk away and try to find another one? And this is one of those scenarios that we created. So when Mary came to me, she said, well, what can we do for these specific instances? I thought back over my career as a technician going, oh yeah, I have a few stories we can pull from. But it's, I really appreciate this from Rory. I think this will be a great thing for our students. I thought it was just a nice natural fit. So I'm excited to see. I know some of you are a little nervous working with our students. Don't worry, we have instructors on site. They're not going to leave the room, I promise. They're not going to go take a break while you guys are working. And we're here to help you if you guys need anything while you're there. But please let me know. And as far as the road rally goes, anything you need for that as well. You can't take the cars though. That's the one thing I get asked all the time. Can we take some of the cars? And nope, sorry, those are just for the building. But we look forward to having you again. So thank you.
Thank you.
Instructor for Friday night. That's all we need. And thank you to everybody. Good.
All right, we're good.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to working with y'all. You can leave that, Ronnie. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Pete, who is going to introduce our program for the day.
Thank you, Dave. Today we're going to go back and look at how our club got started. If I could ask Glenn if you could hand those out. Yeah, thank you very much. You've got a flyer coming out that's informal bullet points that Chan and a lot of people put together that I thought you'd want to see. Today we're going to hear from some of the gentlemen, and I say gentlemen because when we started, we didn't have ladies in the club. We're going back to when the president was a peanut farmer. We're going back to where this location was nothing more than an intersection between downtown Norfolk and Pembroke Mall. There's really nothing here but some new hotel with a green roof on the top. We thought, who's going to be there? We're looking at members that have had over 1,700 breakfasts together. 1,700. That have paid over $14,000 for those breakfasts. Some of those go back to when they were $3. That was a deal back then. So at that time there were only men. You had to be from you could only have one member per profession. So there was one accountant, one banker, one insurance, no two professions at the club. So going back a little ways. Our first charter member and president who started the club was Ken Scott. I'd like to ask Ken to come up if he would. Ken was a member of another club. At that time it was Norfolk, Virginia Beach, and Northside. And Ken offered to start this new club. Ken?
I want to correct if I didn't offer to start it. I just encourage the powers to be within the existing clubs to try to create a breakfast club, because I tried to make downtown, noon, terrible. I tried to make Northside. Nancy hasn't been a member yet, but I heard she might come in, so I had to get out. No, seriously. I was approached by Dan Dickinson, who was then president of the Northside Rotary Club. And now this is in late 1979, with the idea that they, the Northside Club, was interested in undertaking a Diamond Jubilee project for Rotary in 1980, which would have been 75 years of the founding of Rotary. He had heard that I was interested in the Breakfast Club, and then he started the ball rolling, and between the Northside Club and the Downtown Club, they started inviting folks interested in the Breakfast Club. And so I forgot the exact date, but I think it was October, November of '79, we had our first fantastic breakfast meeting over at the old Adams Bar, where if you walked in, you had to be careful because the floor was sticky and it smelled. Anyway, so that's where we started. And over time, people expressed interest. The specific goal was, and what Rotary International had indicated, we needed about 35 members to charter the club. So we were working since the late 1997, 79, see how old I'm getting, anyway. And we finally built it up and had, we actually then wanted to get chartered as close to the official anniversary of February 23, 1980 as possible. So we hit on an evening function on February 22nd, we were organized. We initially had 35 members, but at sort of last minute, we lost one, but we went ahead and chartered anyway. And then I think within a matter of days, Chester joined us so we could get to that 35. Again, just a few points, and not to reiterate what Peter has said, but the club was formed with the idea that we would get members from both Virginia Beach and Norfolk. Because back in those days, you had to either live or work in the city in which the club was formed. We got the border here between the Norfolk and Virginia Beach. And again, this goes back to those early days of how clubs were established and put in. So we were the first breakfast club, first multi-jurisdiction club in Hampton Roads. And let me just close because I know there's others who want to talk. We were formed as the Rotary Club of Tidewater, and then I don't remember the exact time frame, but the emphasis put on primarily by the Virginian Pilot to rename this region as Hampton Roads was promoted pretty heavily. And probably one of the highlights for me was to debate Don Trueblood. I don't know how many knew Don, but Don was in our club. In fact, he was the second president. And Don did not want to change our name, so he and I debated. We each had 5 minutes to get up before the club and say what we thought was the benefits of changing our name, and fortunately I won by 1 vote.
Thank you very much, Ken. That was in 1988 that the club changed its name. The piece you've got in front of you is the outline of bullet points that happened and who did them on occasion. It's over here. And then the members now that were in the club back in the 80s. On the name change, it was interesting, you know, the gung-ho push to be Hampton Roads. And everything changed, a lot of things changed to Hampton Roads, except for the airport, which still is the Norfolk International Airport, Ken. Ken was sort of towing the line on both sides. So we got started, and our first member is still a member, and that's Chester Long. Chester?
Thank you, Pete. First of all, I'd like to thank Ken Scott for getting this group started. We don't talk about it a whole lot, but Ken actually served for, I think, a year and a half, a year and 3/4 as our first president. Back in the late 70s, I was managing the United Virginia office at Pembroke Mall. And I was very fortunate to be asked by someone who was very near and dear to me. John, you mentioned about the foundation, was Andy McCrone. Andy was a diehard Rotarian, worked for SunTrust Bank as a trust officer, retired Navy captain. And I remember Andy got an award. He used to come around here with Curly Weber. Some of you remember Curly. But Andy and Curly came around and promoted the foundation. I remember we were in this room right here, and Andy McCrone came in and said, pointed his finger to our club and says, "Your club is not giving enough to the foundation." And so we've taken it to an entirely different level, particularly with the leadership of Joe. So, but I was fortunate to be sponsored by Andy. And back in the late 70s, I was a member of the Rotary Club of Princess Anne. We met somewhere around here, I can't remember exactly where it was, but the old FOP club, and Keith was there, and Paul Peter was a member of the Rotary Club of Princess Anne. And Buddy Early, who was here last week as a guest and comes real often, Buddy was the president of the Rotary Club of Princess Anne when I joined Rotary. So working at in a bank, in the branch, similar to what Ken said, middle of the day, middle of the week, I think we met on Wednesday for lunch at the FOP. It just, took 2 hours out of your day, and then I got promoted and went downtown Norfolk and coming back for 2 hours in the middle of the day. So when he started the talk for a breakfast club started, and I was really, really interested. Not being a morning person, I said that would work out really well. Pete and I have talked about this over the years. He says, what a wonderful way to start your weekend by going to Rotary on Friday morning. And what was interesting back then, as Ken said, I was not a charter member, because you couldn't be a charter member if you were a member of another club at the current time, which I was not, but I was able to sponsor a charter member, and that was a fellow by the name of Gary C. Gary was an administrator of Lafayette Villa Nursing Home. I've tried to call Gary the last 2 weeks. I was going to try to ask him to show up here this morning just for old time's sake. But Gary was a real character. His family owned the Lafayette Villa Nursing Home in Norfolk. And I remember Ken talking about the old Adams. I can remember, what he didn't mention was everybody smoked back then, and still on Friday morning, the smoke was still in the air when we started eating breakfast. So that was another combination. But I remember two distinctive programs. We had some interesting programs. Again, without having clubs in the morning, that was a challenge to get programs to come in because people weren't necessarily used to going doing Rotary programs in the morning. But Gary did two programs. He was a big fisherman. And at one time he held the record for the largest fish ever caught in Virginia. He was a shark fisherman. He did a program about fishing with his lines and his hats and all this stuff. But the other thing he did, and we've never had a program in almost 35 years like this, he had a hobby of going out and digging privies. He was a real historian and a different bird. He used to go out and dig in privies, and I remember we're sitting there at breakfast, and he's passing around samples of what he had dug out of these privies. But that was interesting. Pete said you got to think back. But one of the things I think too is why are we still here? Pete's still here, Ken's here, I'm here. Like I said, Keith was a Rotarian, Paul was a Rotarian back in the 70s. In August of 1981, I got promoted and I moved to Stanton, Virginia with the bank. I was up there for exactly 3 years. And when I went up there, the two fellows I worked with in the bank were already Rotarians. So I wanted to be involved, loved community service, wanted to be part of the civic organization, so I joined Kiwanis up there. And it was a luncheon meeting. And Kiwanis, you went and I really missed the structure of Rotary. I missed the requirement of attendance, keeping track of attendance. We used to keep track of it a lot more than what we do now. But I like the idea of everybody being here, everybody having a different classification, everybody representing their classification. So when we moved back here, Nancy and I and our family moved back 3 years later, I rejoined the club because I really missed the structure of Rotary. And so that was in 1984. And of course, I've been here ever since then. And I was fortunate to Joe. Thank Joe for. He also asked me to be an assistant governor, and then after I did that, I followed Chan as district treasurer, and I've been involved with Rotary Leadership Institute, to RLI, and so I've loved Rotary involvement, and again, I thank Ken for forming the club. And this is a great organization, and the four-way test that we all stand for, it's meaningful. And I'm in the banking business, and what I do now as a workout officer in my job, I say this real often, character still matters in the business world. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chester. Chester, by the way, stepped in to be the president a second time when one of our upcoming presidents was transferred out of town. A lot of history there. So Dick Shea joined the club, Bob Hurd came in, Keith Lingwing came in, and Keith, your dad had been a Rotarian for how long?
He was almost 65 years when he passed.
65 years. We were a fledgling club, and Keith talked about his dad, and Dick Gresham joined, and Dick, your dad was a member for how long of the Norfolk Club?
Probably almost as long.
And those were the days where you had to attend every week, in person, a club. You couldn't skip, you couldn't get on a computer. That's a long time. That's a long time. Charlie Firestone joined. He's been real active. Charlie, you want to share some words?
Yes, sir. My Rotary journey began back in the 60s when my boss was Rotarian in Atlanta. And though I asked him to sponsor me, he never did, but the dream was there. When I moved here in 1971, I didn't know anybody. And then I met Bob Hurd. I'm not sure Bob remembers it, but he also was helping with some estate planning, and he invited me, and I was hooked before I got here. I never looked back. But it's funny, when I first came in, and Bruce Sanders at the time was the president, Bruce was an attorney, he put me on a committee, and I didn't even know what the four-way test was. I wrote it 2 weeks, and it was funny, but you hit the ground running, and I've never looked back since then. I've been in Rotary for 30 years. It's been an incredible 30 years. I was very lucky that Mike Harris, may rest in peace, one of our presidents who was not with us anymore, past president, invited me to become treasurer when the treasurer was transferred out. And in those days, the Rotary Club was a good old quiet Friday morning club. You guys remember that. And didn't want to be involved in much, and it was just kind of a come to meetings and ha ha ha, and that was it. Well, it changed. It changed. It was changing and morphing at that time, and it was very exciting. And from there, of course, I'm going to become president in 91 and 92. I was the last president that was installed in a meeting. That's what we used to do at the beginning. And then I instituted that year that we were going to have an event for installation. And if you remember, we talked to Pete about it. We went to Alaskan Road, and we took that little cruise for a couple hours, and it was fun. And I think, Chan, that was your first Rotarian of the year. Yes. You and our first female member. Merle, that's right. They were co-Rotarians of the year. We did that year. I was the very first one. And that's when I was really, and I was told to hit the floor and keep running, and I haven't ever looked back. George Smith was before me, and I think Chester followed me. So just the traditions were rolling, and I had the pleasure of working around them, with them, for them, and there with them as time has proceeded. Along the way, many fun things have happened to me. Also, by the way, I see that somebody Carl Looker got credit for the lottery. That was me. I'm the one that just started that in my year. Let's correct the record. Because of my Rotary connections, I was a District Interact Chair for 11 years. I also was in the Rotary Act Chair, served for 3 years. I had that opportunity to serve beyond the club. Also, because of my Rotary connections, I was invited and served 4 years on the Virginia Commission of National Community Services, serving the 2 governors because of Rotary. And I was representing the youth of Virginia, which, as you all know, is my passion. Imagine that. I guess the most memorable thing of my term, though, was we got our first district award. We were at Bayside Middle School at that time, and I forget what the program was. You remember, Chester, what it was? Something we did, reading or something with them. I don't remember exactly what the program was.
So Bayside Middle?
Yeah, Bayside Middle. We got our first district recognition that year for community service. Anybody remember what that was? I don't remember sitting.
We had a red shirt with gray writing on it. It's like step or
Reading,
something.
yeah, I think it was reading, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was our first district recognition, and forward, since we have a visit from the Norfolk Club, we haven't looked back. The club is, as the district governor told us last week, we're one of the district leaders. And that was, we've gotten numerous recognitions since then. So in closing, I told the district governor last week that I believe Rotary Blue, and I think we all do sitting in this room. It's just an incredible organization. It changed my life. It made me a better person. It made me a better human being. And I want to thank everybody who's been a part of my journey. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Charlie. So Charlie comes aboard, gets things rolling a little more, and Don Hertz joins the club. Don was a new guy, and there was a new project we heard about called Polio Plus. Didn't know much about it. Don Hertz is the one started it then, and it's really done well. Joe Mulcairn came aboard. Mark Slaughter. Mark, by the way, started the Bowl-a-thon with Bill Rode, and back in the 90s. He'll be talking about that in a couple months when we have the 90s presentation. We don't really sell things in this club. There was a time where we had fundraisers, and we sold apples, we sold fertilizer door to door, we sold Pepsi to joggers, and joggers don't have wallets, so that one didn't go very well. And then they said, well, let's do a bowl-a-thon and do that instead. So that's why y'all aren't going door to door selling candy bars today. Glenn Allen joined back in '85. Ken Kroll, of course, and Ken's done a great job over there behind the desk as treasurer. John Moore, our first sailor that came through. And then Rich Bertuni, who spends half his time here and half at the villages in Florida. Good group. It's always a Friday way to kick off the weekends, and for a lot of us, this is our support group of buddies. We see each other every week. I mean, it's really a great thing. So I can't think of anything other than Rodeo you go to more regularly than work or church. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pete, and everybody else who spoke.
Bob Hurd.
Bob Hurd.
We didn't hear it.
What?
Do I have a half minute?
Half minute? Sure, come on up.
Oh, I have to come up?
Yeah, you
Right,
gotta
hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, he wants to film you.
One thing that we did, our first big project was Project Lifeline. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
We
yeah.
did it as a district project, and our club just went all over the district. I think we visited every club, promoting them to give money. We bought a bloodmobile for the local Red Cross. What did we raise? Something like $70,000. And it was a great time. It took, we thought we'd do it in a year, and it took us almost 2 years, I think it was, and got that in. But the bloodmobile, I think probably they got rid of it. It's sold now. But there was a big plaque, Rotary plaque, that the Hampton Roads Club initiated, but it was for District 7600. Great time.
Good. Thank you, sir. I'm going to turn it back around here. And I'm going to ask Alicia to come up to help us with our last duty. Need you to draw the winning lottery ticket.
Take the rally flyers off the table and use them, please.
Last three numbers, 0, 6, 0. Oh, there we go.
Oh, wait a minute. Rick.
Yeah, that matches. Thanks, folks. Have a great week.